Hey everyone, welcome to More Than Meets These Guys. This podcast is a journey through Transformers from the beginning of the animated series, with two old friends coming at it from different perspectives. Together, we will go episode by episode with the occasional extra to look at how the show holds up or if it is a trap of nostalgia. We'll be looking at all things involved in the episode, whether there were real world factors that crept into the writing or if the episode was typical afternoon cartoon fodder. I'm Evan. I'm the lifelong fan, and I'm pretty much familiar with all aspects of the franchise and the fandom. While Ed here is familiar with Transformers, but it was really nothing he was really into when he was younger. So thank you so much for being here and joining us this week. Ed, how you doing, man?
I am doing extremely well today. Actually, there's I don't know. I normally like to date our show, but there is a really cool NFL playoff game going on right now with the Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. It's a snow game. Those are very cool. Anytime the dudes are playing in the snow, I'm totally into that and invested in that. I think that's awesome. That's old school. That's tough guy football.
Yeah, man. I was actually
like
up at a like a pub having lunch with a friend from out of town. And yeah, man, we're watching the game and the snow's coming down hard at one point. Really cool. I love seeing NFL like that, like mud games, snow games, any of that kind of
Yeah,
stuff is great.
it's super cool. It was the snow was so bad at one point that like my TV couldn't keep up with all the stuff, so everything was pixelating, and also you couldn't really see anything too, so it was like interfering with the cameras and like getting the lenses all the way. It's very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but I wanted to continue the conversation that we had last week in
Okay.
regards to things that you used to like, but then later realized that weren't very good. But so I like that conversation
Mm-hmm.
that we had. But this is the last episode of the season. This is this is the final episode of season one we're doing here. So I wanted to go out on a positive note though.
Cool. Okay.
And
I'm down with that.
right, so and I mentioned last week that there were probably more. Well, let me back up. So last week we said we talked about things that we liked and then reflected on down the road and decided they weren't very good. They were either problematic or they just weren't as good as you thought they were. But
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that I probably had more examples of things that I liked initially, didn't like, and then upon further reflection, I came back to be like, oh, actually, no, that was actually good. That was cool and good. And then I reversed my stance once again. So so yeah, no, I wanted to touch on that, things that redeemed themselves to you. Um, so see, because for me, this usually has to do with music, since I've said on here a few times that I grew up big into punk rock, and when I first got into all that, at that time, there was a big sentiment of everything outside of punk rock is worthless, and you don't want that. And so you go through this thing where you would just sort of discard everything you liked before. If you
Mm-hmm.
liked, if you like Pink Floyd before that, you're like, oh no, man, it's bad. It's not punk rock, so it's bad, and toss it out. It's out with the trash.
Throw it away.
Yeah, but I went through a phase where once I mellowed out, I was like, oh, well, actually, maybe REM wasn't bad. Maybe I was just in a weird phase, and I'm going to go back and
Mm,
I'm gonna listen to those early REM records again, and they're good.
they're good.
And but then but then I went through the same thing almost with punk rock, where like I spent a few years being really big into like weirdo indie rock,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, so I was like, well, punk rock is just childish and stupid. I don't want to hear that. And I was like, I just swept all that, out of the way. But then down the road, I reflected, and I was like, oh, actually, no, this music was really good. It's a integral part of my existence, and I hate that I felt that way for a little while, because I feel like I've come to a point where I have wisdom, and like all the parts have come together. I'm like a Voltron of all my previous interests now. And so all things
Yeah.
that I liked in the past are cool and good on some level.
Actually,
So
I actually I'm right there with you with the music though, because there's another podcast, not to build up another podcast. They don't need it. You and I both listened to No Dogs in Space, and they gave me a renewed love for the Ramones, the Replacements. I mean, there are a lot of really good bands that I listened to a long time ago, and I just stopped listening to them because I'm like, yeah, nothing really good coming out of this. You go back, you say like, there was some really good stuff there. You don't identify with it as much anymore, and that's kind of the problem with things when they kind of fall out of love with them for a while. You identify less with them, and so I think that's part of the problem with a lot of this. And I mean, I'll give you a big example, man. I was born the year the original New Hope Star Wars. It wasn't called A New Hope then; it was just Star Wars. So Star Wars came out, huge. So I grew up. My brother was a little older than well, he's 7 years older than I am. So he was right in the right age range to really love Star Wars. And as I grew up, there was Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi was really peak age for me. It came out in what, it was 85?
83.
83, sorry. So it all runs together now. So 83, I was 6 years old. That was prime peak time for me to get into anything Star Wars. So I go back and I watch the movies every year, and I appreciate them all in different ways. Fun side fact: when they re-released them in the theaters at one point, I realized the pacing of Star Wars is really kind of rough, and I fell asleep. Empire and the Return of the Jedi never had that problem, but anyways, not to digress at all. There was a point where I think there was so much hype for the prequels when they came out that I was really hoping for something else, and the prequels really there's a punch in the gut. I know now that Lucas really was trying to get a younger generation into Star Wars, but having the the Full House style humor in a Star Wars movie really didn't do it for me at all. And so we had the later sequels come out. There were some good things, some bad things. It was really kind of like it was keeping par. It wasn't going. It was I wasn't saying that someone was ruining my fandom, my childhood, or anything like that.
That's the
It
most
was
played out
so
argument ever.
oh, I hate that so much. But it's like it wasn't for me completely. But I will say that they've come around with the straight to Disney streaming shows. The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, but also the later movies, the side movies they've done, like Rogue One. It's a great movie. I love Rogue One. A lot of those movies that they've come out with later are good. I did not expect to like. Oh God, what is the show that it was just out about one of the characters from Rogue One?
I don't know because we are going to have to do a subdivisions about Rogue One because that is possibly my least favorite.
Oh, what?
That is my absolute least favorite thing from Star Wars.
Oh, what?
And it is one of my least favorite movies of all time. I was on the verge of walking out of it. If I had not gone to that with a mutual friend of ours, I would have left about a third of the way through. I hated every second of that movie. But I don't have time to go into this.
Well, that's fine. Right now, but those kinds of things actually brought me back around to like, okay, maybe this is good. And we grew up in a time where we were begging almost for someone to do something extra with Star Wars after the original trilogy. We were people read novels, we played RPGs, tabletop RPGs, all that stuff. We wanted something new, and when we got that, it wasn't exactly what we wanted. So, it was a rough time for the fandom in a way. And I'm not in the Star Wars fandom, but the later movies and the TV shows that have come out, actually, Andor is the new show. I really dug it for just trying to get into the nitty gritty of little side stuff that happened during all the rebellion. So in that way, I think I've come back around with that, and I like it again. So besides our adamant disagreement with Rogue One, what do you think, man? What's another one for you?
I guess in addition to the music stuff, I guess something that's more relevant to what we do here would be oh God, Bruce Campbell, and honestly, like all of Evil Dead would probably fit that as well.
I can't believe you ever didn't think he was good.
Well, see, okay, Evil Dead 2 back in the day, back in the 80s and the early 90s, Evil Dead 2 was a movie that it was really obscure, and it was not everyone knew about that movie because it just seemed you see that like Evil Dead 2, that's just some generic horror movie, but then but then you catch it on like HBO at midnight or whatever, and it ruled because that movie is hilarious.
That's great,
and it is awesome, and it essentially has a cast of one person that carries the whole thing. Like there's other like side things in the movie, but essentially the cast of the movie is one person, it's just Bruce Campbell, and that's what makes that movie so weird and unique because you don't really see a lot of movies with such a minimal cast that are that good, start to finish. But it's a fantastic movie, and And my friends and I would stay up late and watch it, and it was just one of our go-to like rentals and whatever. It was fun stuff. And then Army of Darkness came out, and that movie also totally different thing. Giant cast and a completely bizarre storyline that was nothing like Evil Dead 2. But that movie bombed. No one cared about it, and it bombed. And I think where I live, they showed it in the cinema. I think twice. I think on like a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and then they never saw it again. My friends and I went and saw it, and we were just like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen." I'm so excited about it. And then and that was our little thing. But then at some point in like 1997 or something like that, I'm not sure what happened, but everybody on Earth discovered those movies. And then everywhere you go, people are quoting these things, and they think that they're the most clever person on earth because they're quoting these movies. And it's like when you play Dungeons and Dragons with people, and they think that it's very unique and witty to quote Monty Python while they're playing the game constantly, which is the worst thing that you can do. If you do that, if you play D&D and you do that, just don't do it anymore. Because spoiler, it is not clever, and
you're not welcome on my game.
But to go along with that, at that point, it led to this bizarre hero worship of Bruce Campbell. He's awesome in Evil Dead. He's awesome in Army of Darkness. But at that point, he didn't really have that much of a body of work outside of those things. And I guess like Briscoe County Jr. was out at that point too, which is a really fun show. But it was just really weird. And I was basically done with the whole thing for years. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with this because I cannot turn around without somebody, referencing those movies. And I'm like, man, they're cool. They're a lot of fun, but it's like, man, can this not be 80% of our conversation is you quoting Evil Dead? But then a few years later, after that wave of people being obsessed with these things died off, I went back and revisited them, and I had time as a perspective, and I was like, oh, these movies are actually cool and good, and I love them, and I just needed that time away. And but also I tend to avoid the types of people that spout off Evil Dead quotes now anyway. So I've just taken that out of the equation. So.
Actually, I understand that completely. And there's a lot of things I completely have the same attitude on. Like I shy away from people start talking and quoting things I loved. That it's like me, like I listened to them before they were cool, but it's not really like like that trying to be an elitist about it. It's just like you have something you think it's really cool, but you think you have this secret. And you like that everyone gets into it also, but it kind of ruins the secret. Dude, I'll tell you that I probably own like 4 versions of the original Evil Dead and like 3 or 4 versions of Evil Dead 2, because every time I wanted something more that, like the Boomstick edition or whatever, Army of Darkness. I wanted like extra stuff because I loved it. I watched Evil Dead 2 over and over so many times. I watched with the commentary, which is one of my favorite commentaries ever.
That commentary is really good. That is definitely
Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, Rob Tapert. They're fantastic. They're like, I feel like it's a bunch of us sitting in a room, like how we try to do this podcast. We want everyone to feel like they're hanging out in the room talking with us. It feels like that with the commentary on that movie. So yeah, I understand that completely. And Bruce Campbell, I mean, honestly, from what I understand with him, he's just is as a dude who likes talking to people and loves having his fans, and he's living in the mountains of Montana, having the best life ever, and he's just happy to be doing it. And I'll tell you what, watching Ash versus Evil Dead on like Stars or whatever when it came out, that whole series is great. He just knows that he's there. That's his character. That's what everyone knows him as, no matter what he does. So I think I appreciate him for that. He's got this like weird nerd stardom above most other things, and that's cool for him. I'll never stop liking him. And like you, I went back and I've watched the original Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, and I'll tell you, man, the original Evil Dead is a truly scary movie. It's a good movie. Evil Dead 2, funny. I love it. Army of Darkness has its good moments, but that's probably the third in the line of those movies.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I hear that a lot about Bruce Campbell too, is that he's really good with fans, and he's a cool guy that immediately appreciates that, which I like that.
Love that.
I appreciate that kind of thing as well. So,
I'll tell you though. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was talking to my wife today about this, and my wife grew up with her mom showing her horror movies. They love horror movies. One of their favorite ones to watch is Halloween. And I will tell you that I have probably seen Halloween that I've been with my wife and before she's my wife and everything like that, probably 100 times. She will put it on when she was studying. She will put it on when she's writing papers. She will put it on when she's reading a book, just because she knows the movie and she likes having the background. So I have seen the movie from beginning to finish so many times, and I love it. It's a fantastic, fantastic horror movie. Halloween 2, it's not as good, but it's still very visceral, very good. So saying that, those movies are great, and I even in a different way I like 3 Season of the Witch. It's a different movie. It's like
Season of the Witch is awesome. That was actually the first one that I saw.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
I really like that one a lot.
You pull that one out of the mix because it's kind of an anthology. They're trying to do an anthology, but those movies like 4, 5, 6, 7, I think too. They were awful.
I have a certain affection for 4 because I had a poster of it in my bedroom for years when I was a kid. I enjoy Halloween.
I do a lot. And I never really watched H2O. She loves the movie.
I've never seen it.
If it's a very 90s, that whole Scream kind of like era, very 90s feeling Halloween. It's a good one, actually. It's not a bad one at all. It works really well with the whole thing. But so I have my beginning. I really love it. A few things in the middle, and I don't like Rob Zombies because it's whatever. It's a different kind of thing. So yeah, the later trilogy has come out, and the rehashing of like the continuation of Halloween.
Yeah.
It is so brutal. It is so like everything about this movie's Halloween and Halloween Kills. I love them. Halloween Ends, I have mixed feelings on. My wife hates it. It was like take the whole thing of the shape and the evil into a different realm, but I like for different reasons. She hates it, but anyways. It was a big thing where beginning is great. It bookends really nicely. If you take out those like 4, 5, 6, and I think 7, I think is what it did. Take those out and put those other ones together. It really tells a great story. So yeah, I've come right around to like loving Halloween again.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
One that I had a similar thing was Kevin Smith.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in particular, like Mallrats. I loved all those movies when they were first coming out, up until I guess like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was about when I was like, I'm done with this. And then like at that point I was burnt out on the guy, and I was like, man, this stuff isn't relevant anymore. And then like Clerks 2 came out, and it was like, I was like, man, this really just sums up Kevin Smith's career, that he's just going back to the initial thing that in the story these guys are going back to where they started, and he's just going back to where he started too, because he just can't do anything else. But Mallrats though, that was I loved it when it came out, and that along with the rest of them, I was like, man, these are I don't know, man, these just haven't aged well. But after I had that time, I got a completely different appreciation, especially for Mallrats, since that movie is almost a perfect time capsule of what a lot of people's lives were like in the 90s. Like it's really rare when you think of that too, because something like Dazed and Confused is a pretty perfect distillation of 70s dirtbag life, right? But it took 20 years of perspective to be able to make that. Mallrats does that for kids like me who, like, in the 90s were, so I didn't know what to do. I had a crap, aimless job. I was trying to go to college, but I got nothing to do. My friends were working the mall. I'm gonna go walk around the mall and get free samples, and, like free sunglasses, and
even the stereograms. That was a huge thing. Stereograms.
It was a huge
schooner
thing. Oh yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, he made a pretty perfect time capsule of that period in the time, because like American Graffiti is kind of the same thing. American Graffiti was made in the 70s, but distills the 50s experience for teenagers perfectly. But it took 20 years to be able to do that. So, in theory, you should think that like in 2015, there should have been a perfect movie about the 90s, but the perfect movie about the 90s already existed because it was made in the 90s, which is very rare. So yeah, Mallrats is one that I've watched recently, and
Yeah.
And it's still good. It's still, especially if you grew up in that time.
I can see that, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'll, be honest, it comes full circle for me because, my childhood was big on Transformers. I think after Beast Wars and such, they had a big chunk of they people are clamoring for like anime, or not anime, really, well, the Japanese animation of Transformers stuff that came over. It was bad. It was so, I know some people love it. It was just bad. And come full circle, we come out with I think the Transformers Michael Bay movies brought in a new interest in it, and we had some really good shows come out of that. So it's really come full circle where you know it's not that I ever fell out of love with them, but I can, it's like it feels more accepted. I don't know. So, but I mean, honestly, that's kind of how it goes with some of these things. You those things that are important, that are good and have like stand the test of time, come back around.
No, fair enough. Yeah. I don't even have a clumsy
Like a plague.
of like a plague. Yeah, it's around like a plague. Yeah,
Of Insecticons.
Of Insecticons. So,
So yeah,
yeah, here we go. Final episode of the season.
yeah, man, we got our
Plague
buddy
of
Dougie
Insecticons.
Booth.
Doug Booth. We'll skip. Well, I'm not even going to say anything about it today. I'm not even going to mention his title today because he's a friend of the show.
Dougie.
Dougie
Booth. So yeah, man. So I had to look up something. So we open in Swamp in Bali, and the narrator, the best voice actor in the show.
So good.
We're in Swamp in Bali, is known as Demon Swamp.
Demon Swamp. Like,
so,
man, something bad's gonna come out of there. When you name a place that, something bad's gonna come out of it.
Demons, man.
Demons.
So I had to look up I felt bad. I was like, the natives of Bali. I can't say that. So I was like, what are the natives of Bali named? And I had to really catch myself to say not Bolognese. They're the Balinese. So fun fact.
Bolognese, like
Bolognese,
like the sauce.
Yeah, but I looked at it. I almost said Bolognese, so I had to stop myself. It's
man.
Yeah. So poor Balinese are motioning in they're bringing their grain and their boats through the Demon Swamp. I don't know why they have to go through the Demon Swamp.
Why are they going through the Demon Swamp? Like, just don't go in there. And so yeah, these guys are rowing these. They got like the sticks. And they're like rowing these little canoe things, and robot bugs pop up out of nowhere and start zapping these Balinese natives. These poor guys. They've got a pretty wide variety of accents here. Also, there's some guys just kind of. There's a couple of guys that are So a couple of these guys here have some thick accents, and I don't think that's what people from Valley. Yeah, it's just sound like. They call me crazy, but speaking of accents, though, so these robot bugs transform and they start talking. These dudes sound like Pokemon. These dudes sound super cool. They have these crazy voices, but the thing is, I can't understand a single thing any of them are saying. I had to turn the subtitles on. I was like, I don't know what these guys just came in and they were just like spewing stuff, and I was like, I thought they were like Pokemon. They were just mumbling the names over and over again. I didn't know what was going on.
Bombshell, I choose you.
God, and so
they're heavily reverbed voices. Yeah,
God, he's got rule.
Yeah, Shrapnel shows up first, and then like Bombshell pops up and flings a boat to the shore. He just goes up, takes his boll weevil like proboscis, and goes boom over to the shore, tosses the guy over there, and they're eating and stuff, and like one of them goes, "Kickback, your meal's escaping," and the other one says, "In that case, I better hop to it," because he's a get it, he's a grasshopper.
He's a grasshopper, yeah.
These
guys just eat everything.
They do.
They eat. That's their whole like Snorlax from Pokemon.
This is a great thing though. I was reading the script before I watched the episode. So Kickback jumps at this remaining boat, goes, yeah. In the script, this it says that Kickback makes a karate sound. So if you ever wondered what a karate sound is, that's what apparently it is. I don't know if the voice actor is like, yeah, he's like, yeah, use that. Okay. So yeah, karate sound.
So here's something really cool that whenever you made that sound, your mic kind of distorted and it actually sounded like the sound from the show. That was very
beautiful.
Cool. So yeah, just scream into it louder whenever you want to sound like an Insecticon.
I will do that.
So yeah, these guys just eat stuff, and then but the Autobots get a distress call, and they answer it like it's from Bali. Like, and I always love these things when like foreign countries get that genericized when like it's just a call from this country. Like okay, so there was a commercial in the 90s. I don't know if you remember this or not. It was a commercial for some long distance company where there's a guy at a payphone. He's trying to call somebody, and this guy answers the phone at a payphone. He's on the beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy answers the phone and he goes, "Mocha Nakafise." And the
Yeah,
guy goes,
I was thinking it's
yeah, and he's like, "Is this Phoenix?" And he goes, "You've reached Fiji." Like, I'm gonna answer my phone and go, "Hello, this is America."
I actually I always thought he said Okanakapisai. I don't know what he said.
I guess he's saying Mocha Nakafise, which I always heard Mocha Nakafise. And what's funny is I actually, in a fit of nostalgia, when I was making my notes, I actually YouTubed that commercial and watched it. And it's a lot more grim than I remember it being. Like the guy was trying to call Phoenix was like alone, like at night at a payphone. It's like this kind of noir kind of thing where it's like one single street light beating down on this guy, and like he's all distressed because he's trying to call Phoenix, and like it's like look AT&T, your long distance carrier, you won't run into these things. And this poor guy is like on the beach and he's trying to surf or whatever, and he keeps answering the payphone. Don't answer the payphone, dude. You don't need to, like, why? It's not your job.
Oh, how did he end up getting Fiji?
I think he was telling the operator that he was trying to call Phoenix, like Phoenix, Arizona. And then the operator, I guess, like who was a big long distance carrier back then? MCI. They were a big one, right? And so maybe they were just implying that MCI is so bad and so stupid that their operators will be like, Phoenix, oh yeah, let me call Fiji.
Fiji. Let's find a payphone in Fiji.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to call it like Baltimore, and like you've reached Bali.
So that means what happened, man. They're listening up in Baltimore, and Bali comes through.
Yep. So
they're being attacked by giant bugs.
So sorry for the discretion there.
It's great.
Direction there on the on the Mokanakapise. All right.
So they get all together, and they get a group together and say, okay, we're going. Hey, Dad, tell Optimus Prime where we're going. They just leave
a note.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, Dad, stay here and guard the base, I guess, with the open garage door, and make sure everyone knows where we're going.
Skyfire's real excited here because he says he's calling up the Skyfire Exterminator Service. He already doesn't like bugs. He's going to exterminate these bugs.
So he's going to transform in the base and just fly out the garage door. I guess it's a good thing they have a huge hallway that anything can walk down or fly out.
It's so big.
Yeah, it's terrible security. So Laserbeak, I guess, intercepts the message and tells Megatron about the SOS. Megatron goes to investigate, obviously getting there first since they fly. So once again, we have the whole thing where the Decepticons are really getting the upper hand every time because they just fly there. The rest of the Autobots are driving across, different continents. So it takes them like 5 minutes longer, apparently.
So I made a note here about being confused because I thought that the Insecticons were Decepticons, but this gets answered in like 90 seconds. So my whole bit here is just completely different. So
your bit's terrible, man.
It really is.
I know, just every time.
But so they go to the swamp, and Soundwave sends Ravage out, and Ravage is super excited. He's like in his element. He's in the jungle, like this is home. He's very excited. It's like when I walk my dog. I have a Siberian Husky, and when it's cold outside, he's very excited. He walks like he's very proud to be outside and walks a lot higher.
Probably feels good, man.
Yeah, he loves it. So I'm sure that Ravage felt the same way when he was in the swamp. Like this is his ancestral homeland, even though he's from a robot planet and doesn't know what a swamp is anyway.
Yeah.
So
they find this small mound in with moss and stuff covering it, which is the Insecticon base apparently, and then they realize that their base is an escape module from the Decepticon ship. So apparently they were on the ship, but no one remembers them. So that's fun.
Yeah, I was about to say. So this was part of the ship that came to Earth initially.
I mean, it sounds like it from what they explain, but no one knows who they are. No one knows where they came from. They're just there, but apparently they escaped in the ship or something.
Yeah, so they've also been sitting here for 4 million years, and they just now woke up for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why 4 million years is a good timer.
I don't know, man. Maybe their cell phone alarm just went off finally. Who knows?
Who knows, man?
And so they're something like their Adena computer modules or whatever, like help them adapt as insects because where they're at. Which, big boll weevil, big grasshopper, and a big I don't know what kind of beetle he
He's
is.
like a stag beetle. I
Yeah,
think
like a
is what
stag beetle. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
he's
think
got
that's
those
right.
big mandibles.
Yeah, so I didn't know they all lived in Bali, but okay.
I'm willing to overlook that. I don't care. But my question: what were they before? What were they on Cybertron?
I don't know. Apparently they were opportunistic jerks, but besides that, I don't know. I like there's almost this tribalism once again because the Dinobots have their own little sect within the Autobots. The Insecticons have their own little sect within the Decepticons. So there's this neat little tribalism. There's like subsects of different factions. I like that a lot. I don't know why. It just seems more interesting to me than rather than good versus evil or black versus white.
They all talk the same too.
Oh, they're great.
Everybody in the factions talks the same. So all the Dinobots talk like big dumb Frankensteins, and these guys talk like reverb Pokemons.
Yeah.
Um,
And the Autobots are driving through a ravine when Optimus hits the brakes where there is some village celebration. This reminded me of that. Do you remember the big celebration in Big Trouble in Little China where the Pork Chop Express was going down the alley?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Stopped.
I remember that.
Reminds me just of this. Like,
That's
what are
pretty
we gonna
close.
do now? So yeah, old Jack Burt decides he's gonna drill into the side of the wall apparently and go under the, or no, they go down this like little like I don't know hill.
Yeah, he's gonna sit there and drill, and but he's also he knows how to get through there because he calls himself a proton-powered pathfinder.
Yeah, obviously he is.
And then somebody calls him out on that. He's like, "Yep, just like a proton-powered pathfinder."
I think Wheeljack does that. Yeah.
So we cut to the scene in a field with some farmers, and there's a Balinese. Was it Balinese?
Balinese.
A Balinese dude driving a combine, and he sees the Insecticons ahead of him, and he, with this crazy accent, monsters, monsters, and then the Insecticons just blow this guy's poor combine up. Yeah, how expensive a combine is? Man, nobody in Bali has a combine. I bet
that was probably the community combine.
Yeah, the one combine in the whole island.
Yeah, and it was his chance. He rented it out for that time.
Oh yeah,
and didn't get insurance on it because he's like, "What's going to happen in Bali?"
Mm-hmm.
So that dude is on the hook for that combine.
Yeah, man,
he's ruined now. So
it's economic terrorism. So yeah. So they blow this thing up, and then the Insecticons do this weird thing where they make the chunks of metal like copies of themselves, and there's a whole army of these dudes.
He sends out like Shrapnel sends out the shrapnel bomb and blows up the combine and stuff, and sends shrapnel like metal into the grass or the wheat rather, the grain, and makes more clones. That's one of their big things is they do clones, and they do it all the time.
That's kind of huge, though. Because those are like permanent things, right?
Yeah, until he loses control of them. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's though, because I mean, if you think about that, that's a pretty. I mean, from thinking about it from like a serious point of view, that's a pretty major power to have.
That's pretty OP. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. He got the magic item that kills all the dragons. Yeah. He's
like multiple man from X-Men.
he kind of is. Yeah. Oh man, okay. I see there's a little activity on the Discord. Anyways, so yeah, he makes all the multiple, I guess clones of these guys. And so I gotta say they have some of this useful secondary weaponry of anything we've ever seen in the show. They constantly pull out like, oh well, I have an answer for this.
They have all kinds of cool like lasers and stuff, and it's pretty nuts how much gear these guys pack. And it's pretty powerful too, man. So these guys are pretty awesome. So the Autobots are kind of hiding from these guys because they're like dropping these like air bursting cannons all over them, and the Autobots are, even though they're getting shelled, they're pinned down. They're like, somebody goes, well, at least they didn't bring that sawed-off nerd Rumble with them.
Man, why are they picking on Rumble again?
Just out of nowhere.
I'm telling you, he is that kid next door who's a little younger than you, and you really hated dealing with him. But he's like, all right, you can come hang out with us, but just don't talk. He's that kid. Like, oh, okay, yeah.
He's like that kid, he's like that kid that almost got in a fight with when I was a kid because he wouldn't tell me how to go for the pin in WrestleMania on the NES.
Wait, is he not the kid who couldn't pronounce Devastator?
Oh, Devastor? No,
Devastor?
no, we didn't know. We didn't have. That was before. That was pre-Nintendo. That was right before I had a Nintendo, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Sideswipe is drilling into. I think it's Sideswipe. He's drilling into this mountain, and
Yeah.
it's been so long. It's been like 3 segments. He's been drilling into this thing. So Optimus Prime is just like, get out of the way, and he turns into the truck. And he just crashes through.
Yeah, I don't know how he knew there was only like a paper thin layer left. He just busts through there, and someone says like, "Oh, Optimus and the rest are here! Yay!" And they do this big cheer.
Yes, a big cheer. So Sunstreaker does a flying body press, and
Oh, that was great.
and he dives onto his Megatron. It's like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat coming off the top rope. That was cool. And then but then he gets tossed aside, and Megatron goes for the power bomb on Sideswipe, and he power bombs him into the Autobots. And
Dude,
this was,
it looked like Andre the Giant fighting midget wrestlers.
it
was so
like
good. They're like
like a
hanging off
battle
him. He's like got one in each arm. He's flinging them. It was the best thing ever.
Oh man, I loved it. God, I love it. So yeah, there's a big brawl, and in the middle, at the end of this brawl, Skyfire's laid out and broken again, and Wheeljack fixes him. And I was like, I didn't even see him get hit.
Yeah. Apparently, he took a shot to the unit that makes him work. I don't know.
I think he looked at a laser and he just fell down. He fell unbroken. Like
dude, that dude's constitution was like a 2.
Dude, this heat is awful. You were right the last episode where you were like, he has 0 points in armor. It's all in speed.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
paper mache armor on him.
Dude, I don't like.
He works at SDC, man. He's shooting MDC weapons, but he's like SDC armor.
God, he's terrible, dude. Just just drop this dude. Just drop us off and go back home. We'll call you when the movie's over. Yeah. But then what does he do? Then he transforms and he's gonna go chase down the Decepticons, right? But hold on.
Okay.
Hold on, because I'm about to get mad here. All right. Ooh. So he transforms, takes off. He's like, Optimus Prime goes, "Hey man, be careful because we can't help you from the ground."
I know where you're going with this.
Despite the fact that we've seen the Autobots fly several times in the past, but keep that thought in mind because we're about to revisit that thought in just a second.
Put a pin in that. Okay.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay. Yeah. I gotta back up real quick for a scene when Skyfire shows up with the Insecticons in the field. He does this weird Gerwalk mode, dumps all the Autobots out, and then transforms. He like stops, goes, dumps them,
he did,
and then transforms. It was the weirdest looking thing.
It was kind of cool, actually.
It was actually kind of cool, but it was just weird. But yeah, so Skyfire takes off, and Egyptian lover notices that Skyfire is following them. Megatron tells the Insecticons that he'll watch their clones if they take out Skyfire. So what's he gonna do? He's like, hey, I got your boys over here. You just go take care of him. He doesn't want to deal with them.
Yeah. I don't care. But meanwhile, the Decepticons, they have something to do though. They got business to attend to. They're gonna go rob an oil refinery. Yep. So we're back to fossil fuels.
Man, I got so much to say about this too.
We're also back to the original plan.
Mm-hmm.
We're back to the episode 1 plan of like, let's go rob some oil refineries and get some more energon, which is fine. Because I felt like they've been kind of aimless. They haven't really been. There's been a whole lot of energy seeking out the past couple of days. Which is fun,
there's been a few problems in that. But so Skyfire's flying, and the Insecticons meet up with them, and Kickback goes below him, shoots at him, and then Bombshell and Shrapnel each grab a wing, and they're chewing on the wings, and he's like doing this whole bob and a weave, and I'm gonna let you take over now when the Autobots discover what's going on.
Oh man.
Yeah, let's do this.
Wheeljack transforms into robot mode, and what does he do?
He flies
up and he starts blasting the Insecticons. Like literally, it was literally like 90 seconds prior to this in the show when Optimus Prime's like, "Hey man, be careful up there. We can't back you up on the ground, in the sky."
I feel like the Autobots have like been Stockholm syndroming all of us, thinking that they can't fly. Like, no, we can't fly. We forgot how to fly, and every so often, like, hey, fly up there. Okay, I got this. But wait, they can't fly.
Oh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. So we cut back to the oil refinery, and the oil refinery workers. I don't know. First of all, I don't know where this oil refinery is. I don't know if this is in Valley still, or if we're back in Oregon, or
I don't know.
Else, but
I feel like the one of the workers had this kind of accent. So I think we're in Bali. Maybe we're in somewhere in Southeast Asia. I don't know where we're at exactly.
But he says, the monsters are back. Run.
Yeah, the monsters are back.
Like they've robbed this place in the past multiple times, apparently, and so no one thought to up the security here, come up with any sort of countermeasures or anything like that to deal with evil transforming robots that break in and steal.
They gave them a one-way communications to the Autobot base. That's what they did.
How are they going to get there that fast? How do you need Southeast Asia from Oregon that fast when you can't fly?
Can they not fly?
They can't fly in giant quotation marks there. Why don't they have like a giant like oil tanker? Well, I guess they can fly from Skyfire, but is there?
He's kind of like their Earth taxi right now. Yeah, so Shrapnel uses his override waves. Oh yeah, the Autobots are driving still. Shrapnel comes across them, uses his override waves to take control of Sunstreaker and Sideswipe. So Sunstreaker and Sideswipe are barreling towards the Autobots. They're like, shoot our tires, we can't stop. And so Chris Christopherson uses his force field generator to disrupt the waves from Shrapnel. He goes, I got you, boys, and shoots his force field thing. And instantly loses control of Sideswipe and Sunstreaker. And so Brawn asks Optimus to do a fastball special with him. He lays Optimus, throw me at him. He is Wolverine. Optimus Prime is Colossus, and he hurls him, lands on top of Shrapnel, and starts punching him.
Like in the sky, they're flying around in the sky.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Yeah, and the one of the Insecticons gets real mad about this whole thing, and he doesn't want any more, as he says, interruption.
But man, I gotta tell you, who was there at the refinery? Rumble. He's there.
I know that sawed-off nerd. That sawed-off nerd is there. Yep.
A geek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love it, man. Megatron is up against the building with his arms crossed. He's just chilling, watching all the. He's like smiling. He like, hey guys, glad you showed up.
He's the foreman now.
He is 100% the foreman.
Yeah. So I really like this oil refinery. It's very uniform. It's something. It's like you build this in Sim City. This is what your industrial district will look like in Sim City. I like this thing a lot.
So yeah, he sends the Insecticons to start drinking oil from the Exxon Valdez over there.
They're like fleas. They glomp onto the side of this oil tanker and they're just sucking the oil out of it. And what are they gonna? Are they hungry, or are they gonna do something with that?
They're constantly like looking for energy, I guess. That's kind of their shtick, man. They're effective and they're really good, but they're always hungry. They're like having kids. They're always hungry. But yeah, so Skyfire's flying in. Megatron is this weird like animation thing where he has a huge head and tiny body. He's like, all right, well, guys are coming up. He grabs the fusion can, puts it on his arm, like, all right, let's do this. He's like, I guess time to go to work.
He was like your bobblehead.
Yeah, he really was. So yeah, Skyfire clips two Insecticons on the side of the tanker because with his wing, like click, click, knocks in the water.
That was cool.
It was great. And so Megatron does the weirdest, most stilted command. Activate the Ravage cassette. What was up with this? But it's actually in the script just like this.
Activate the Ravage cassette.
Yes, it is exactly in the script from the old Sunbow archives, just like this.
Okay.
It was weird, man. It was so like, it was like, okay, I'm not a pod person, but activate the Ravage cassette. Yeah, but you know, it's there, man, whatever. And so the Autobots are like in the water.
They're floating again.
Yeah,
we're back to the original 3 episodes. They're floating in the water.
But Thundercracker goes, Megatron said to give you a warm welcome. He uses the flamethrower he has every so often. He remembers he has it, and he like shoots the oil and catches the fire. They just dive into the water.
Yeah, they dive under the pier. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Why would you put? I brought this up before. Why would you have a flamethrower on a plane? You're going to fly faster than the fire is. It's really silly.
Yeah, you think that, don't you?
I do. There's a clip. There's a clip here where the Beetle guy is talking, but no sound's coming out of his mouth. So he's just like he's just standing there, just talking. And somebody should have like clipped in like a Wu-Tang Clan song or something. That was pretty cool.
I'm sure there's something in there we could do. Yeah. So they come up under the pier and just like all at once, like boom, and like knock Thundercracker off the pier. who can fly, it's really not inconveniencing.
But
all right,
that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool though. I don't know how they did that, but that's going to come into play here in a second though. The fact that they can somehow, they have traction underwater. Keep that. Put a pin in that because that's going to come back in a second.
Just brought this up in the Discord, and this is gonna be fun.
This is very cool. So one of these Insecticons is like zapping everybody with lightning, and then Spike figures out that the one thing he does in this episode, he figures out that rubber tires will insulate you as long as you're touching the ground with rubber tires. And, fair enough.
Yeah, pretty much. So I read a little thing about this that they didn't actually put into thought that if you put lightning into a robot in the water, it's going to conduct through the water and kill everyone who's like not a robot. But whatever, it was 80s cartoons. So Megatron takes and starts pushing this oil tanker into the refinery.
Hold on. Before that though, there's a really cool scene where the Autobots are transforming into car mode, so they don't get so they can just get zapped and they don't worry about it, right? Because they're grounded with the rubber tires, right? But there's a really cool scene where Optimus Prime, instead of transforming, so what he does is he uses two Autobots as skates.
He does. I said the same thing in my notes. He uses Ironhide and Brawn as roller skates. He's riding them.
It's so cool. But the thing is, that scene is like a half a second long. Like, I had to back that up like 14 times to appreciate how cool it was. And I was like,
great.
Like, okay, we got like a third of that one episode was Autobots like surfing. And like, why can't I get
2 seconds of this?
Dude, why can't I get Optimus Prime roller derby here?
He's wearing them as shoes like the vehicle Voltron's wearing the cars. Yeah.
Right, exactly. This was so cool, man. Milk this.
Yeah.
I mean, you cut out some of these Balinese people that aren't doing anything, or cut out some Insecticons, because the Insecticons do way too much. So Megatron decides he's gonna do the plot of Speed 2, and he's gonna crash this oil tanker into the refinery and blow the whole thing up. I guess he can't have it, he just don't blow everything up.
Yeah, so he's really good traction underwater, and he's pushing this tanker with all his strength because he can push off the. So I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can. So he actually uses his superior transformer technology to create a surface tension of the water that he is within. So he creates a pocket to push off of and pushes the tanker. I mean, why not? But better yet, Optimus Prime catches him and grabs it, and then he uses the same technology to stand on a very dense surface tension of the water that he is standing within, creates a pocket around him, we'll say, and he takes the tanker and throws it at Megatron. He just tosses it. He is Colossus in this episode.
God. Yeah, man.
There you go, Jess. That was for you.
God. So an oil tanker is huge.
Yeah,
like massive, and those things, I guess the beam, I think is what it's called. The depth that goes underwater, I think is what that's called. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know anything about boats. I'm terrified of boats. But despite the fact I live right by the water. I don't like
Captain Brody. Why are you terrified of the boats?
I don't like boats. I don't like boats.
Great, man. They float.
Nah. They're supposed to.
I just discovered something new about you today, man.
They float until they don't.
You can swim, right?
Yeah, I can swim, but I don't. I like to swim in clear water. I like to swim in water that I can see the bottom of. Preferably as a concrete bottom of that, and not a sand or, especially even worse, a seaweed bottom. I don't know. I don't like things that lurk in those.
I get that.
I don't like that at all.
Let's get back to this. So, my notes was Megatron does his best to cause an environmental disaster. So that's what that whole scene was about. But Shrapnel's control beams have one major weakness. If you cut off the signal, they all go away, because there's like these clones surrounding Bumblebee and Spike. And Trailbreaker goes, "Oh yeah, I have this thing I can do," and shoots. And Chris Christopherson gets up, shoots a beam at Shrapnel, cuts off all the signal. All the clones just disappear. So
it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, there you go.
That's it. Yep. And so then the Insecticons start eating Energon, and Megatron is just appalled by this.
He's pissed.
He declares them traitors, and they're gonna blow them up, and
Yeah.
that routes the Decepticons, and they're all done.
I think the one thing they hate more than anything else is being kind of hosed in the end. Like, hey, we had a partnership. Well, I guess you should have known better. They didn't care to reach out to you and say hi until now. And so there you go, I guess. So yeah, there's this whole thing where Bumblebee's like, I don't envy Megatron or something like that. I can't remember exactly the line, but Wheeljack does this really interesting thing at the end of the episode. This is going to foreshadow a episode, season 2, episode 1. Wheeljack mentions that making Transformer body for Spike, and Spike's like, I don't know, man. I can't even drive, or no, he's not old enough to drive.
Right. He's
Yeah.
gonna make him a motorcycle. He wants to make him a cyclone.
Yeah. Dude, I'd be all about that. That'd be great. Have a cyclone armor. Oh man, that'd be sweet. But yeah, we'll get into that when we get into season 2. But yeah, anyways, that's a Plague of Insecticons.
That was the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Was kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, like some of them do. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this one was like, this was just basically like nonstop action in this one. It was just like from the very beginning. It was just things happen, and I did like that the Insecticons were portrayed as an actual menace. Unlike my main man Devastator, who just kind of showed up and formed Devastator and then immediately got blown up and did zero in that episode. This was a pretty cool way to introduce these guys, because they just came in and did stuff, and they faced the entire thing. I think I would probably like this episode a little bit more if it was in the middle, which I believe. Thinking about it, I think this was supposed to be like the towards the last quarter or last third of the season, and not the final episode.
Yeah, I think Heavy Metal War is supposed to be the last episode. So
yeah, and we've touched on that before, where that they aired out of order, or they're presented out of order a lot of times. I guess it just kind of falls flat. It just, as because in my brain I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, this is the final episode of season 1, and I think because we are so spoiled at this point on prestige TV that has well-defined seasons and beginning and a middle and an end and a good cliffhanger for the next season, and I think that kind of tainted how I felt about it. Kid Brain really would have wanted to go out and buy all 3 of these little guys.
Oh yeah.
And spoiler, Kid Brain at 8 years old or whatever did go out and buy Kickback. That was one of the few Transformers that did have. He was actually a good one. So he looked cool in both forms. I think he was a good.
Oh yeah,
he was a good one.
I got Bombshell myself.
Bombshell, yeah. Which one is he? Is he the
Boll Weevil?
Boll Weevil, okay. But yeah, so it wasn't bad. I guess Kid Brain's gonna go I don't know, man, 3.5 sawed off nerds out of 5. It was fine. Adult Brain just was like I said, all the shortcomings of the the season formatting and all that kind of stuff just kind of brought it down for me a little bit. So I'd have to go I don't know, man. I'd have to go oh god, I don't know, 2 heavily modulated and reverbed Pokemon voices. I'd have to go with this one. And then there's because I mean, it's from the adult point of view, there just wasn't a whole lot of fun stuff, and it's like we've said before about if there's some funny animation errors or something cool to glom onto. I didn't even think it was a whole lot of funny dialogue in this one or anything like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a whole lot to grasp onto, and especially it being the the end of the first season. It was just kind of meh. It's kind of a whimper, and I would much rather have had Heavy Metal War be the end. So, but that's just again, that's also 40
pacing.
years of it's pacing, and it's 40 years of learning how stories are structured, and a good 20 years of amazing seasons of television, one after the other, and you get spoiled on things that came out before that era. So yeah, that's me. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. it was actually, there's a lot going on. I mean, the script is constantly like, you're changing locales constantly. It's constantly going on. Things are happening over and over and over. Yeah, nonstop action. There were some funny things in this episode. There were some silly things in the episode, but I mean, all in all, yeah, it was a good introduction to the Insecticons, who will be around, I mean, for quite a while. They're not going around till, they're not gonna go away till after the 1986 movie, which we'll talk about that when we come to it. So they actually, yeah, I really dug it. I kind of forgot how resourceful and cool as characters they are, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's just, it's episode of the week, afternoon cartoon fodder, as I say. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2 Insecticon clones out of 5, because it does get worse, but it also gets a lot better. So yeah, I mean, that's it for season 1. Actually, I want to thank everyone for seeking out the Discord, emailing us, getting a hold of us. I will say this also, because I always forget to say this, but I know it's important to, if you like it, give us a good rating, or hopefully not a bad rating, or decent rating, and on your favorite platform, and say hi, email us. We're pretty common talking in the Discord. And however you find us, we have a Facebook page. I'm going to put all the links in the show notes, like I always do. And I look forward to talking to you guys. Yeah, Ed and I both, man. I think I've made a believer out of them that Transformers fans are pretty cool, man. They're all right.
Yeah, Transformers fans are once again, Transformers fans are very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is it for season 1. So I think from what we talked about before, I think we're going to do a subdivisions next week, and maybe the week after that, before we get into season 2.
Give a little bumper. I mean, I'd like to do subdivisions on one of my favorite other properties, but we already talked about in our Discord. I think Tim gave us a really good idea about talking about different openings of different TV shows.
Oh, theme songs. Yeah, we should definitely.
Songs,
yeah, I think we should definitely do theme songs. But yeah, we don't. So basically, what we're saying is that we don't know what we're going to do next week, and
we talked about doing Robotech at one point too. So I mean, like, if you want to talk about that, we'll figure it out. Ed and I will talk, I'm sure, about this and figure out what we're doing. But it's just tossing around ideas. So guys, please get a hold of us and tell us your ideas. Tell us in the Discord what you think is really cool, and we'd love to hear about it. So Ed, you want to take us out with a quote for the end of season 1?
I wanted something simple for the end of season 1, so I'm just gonna say roll out.
Succinct. I like it. All right, guys, thank you so much for being with us today and this whole season, and please say hi. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.